You're watching Zoo Tours, the channel that takes you on a virtual field trip to the zoo. Welcome back for a second and, for the moment, a final look at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. One of the few aquariums out there that strictly follows the rescue, rehab, and release motto. If you haven't seen part 1, you really should do yourself a favor and first click on that card above. We looked around their brand new dolphin complex, learned stories of how their sea turtles, otters, and some of the big screen's most famous animals got a second chance at life. But before we continue, I want you all to comment what your favorite cetacean is. This world-renowned animal hospital continues below deck. As you saw, the CMA rescues animals of all sizes, dolphins, pelicans, otters, to even seahorses. And as small as they are, they've made some pretty big headlines. Have you ever heard of the seahorse that fell from the sky? A seagull swooped down and picked up what was first described as a cheetah. It wasn't the puffs kind, so the bird dropped it on the beach near a little girl and her mom. And turns out that cheetah was a seahorse. The girl placed him in a bucket, the mom called the CMA, and Cheetah was rehabbed and released, not even within a month span. But that's not all. I'm not sure if he was in here, but Bobby was treated for an overinflated swim bladder that caused him to float at the surface. Since he was already in a hospital, he probably thought it was as good time as any to give birth to hundreds of sea foals. I did hear that Bobby was still having buoyancy issues and wasn't up for release, but did read that his hundreds of children could go to the ocean. I know the aquarium is pretty strict when it comes to their 3R policy. I don't know if it applies to their look-downs, tarpon, and cow nose rays, but as we saw in the last episode, it definitely applies to sea turtles. The Mavis Rescue Hideaway was named after Harold, who played Mavis in Dolphin Tale 2. As we saw, he wasn't in his own estate, but I did see Snorkel, a loggerhead that was found with trauma to her upper beak and both eyes, which rendered her blind. Cupid had abrasions to her face, barnacles on her shell, and as you can see, she's having some trouble keeping her butt down, which prevents her from properly submerging. Ula is believed to have been hit with a boat. Her wounds didn't heal correctly. Her shell then formed a hump and also gave her buoyancy problems. Stubby was brought in, well, do I even need to say it? Let's just say that this goes to show what can happen if you don't properly keep your fishing line in check. Even though Stubby is Stubby, the aquarium refers to her as the friendliest turtle they have. Mavis's friends, but not Mavis themselves, can also be viewed from the Stingray Beach, a touch tank with the usual lineup of more cownose, southern and Atlantic stingrays. It's not much different from every other ray touch tank, but I know that you can also sign up to feed them. Now comes the facility's, I guess you could say, breaking point. The CMA is a unique place, obviously, but with aquarium in their name, they still haven't forgotten that every aquarium has at least a few wall tanks, and a few more tropical fish. Yellow tangs, blue crabs, that's a first for us actually. My favorite was easily the tessellata or honeycomb eel. And I'm sorry for all the mega CMA fans out there if I'm wrong, but I think that their name is Spot, and I wonder where they got that name. The CMA invites you to look behind the scenes in the animal hospital. You might have the opportunity to witness work from their medical professionals in the surgical room. If nothing's going on, it's still filled with a bunch of graphics, showing even further how this place carries out their mission and purpose. While they do have a separate rescue site, most of these tanks were filled with even more rescued sea turtles. So usually you see the aquarium's permanent residents, but this is the only place where you can see the rehabilitation process happening. The hallway makes you backtrack into the main room and on into the Sea Cavern and Shark Pass. Once home to Thelma and Louise, now it's just Thelma, the nurse shark, much like one of their otters. A private collector caught the pair as young pups and kept them as household pets. I'm not sure if it's true, but I read that the owner believed the two would stay small forever. Nurse sharks can max out at 9 feet long, so obviously that wasn't happening. Eventually, Thelma and Louise outgrew their tank and were donated to be a part of the CMA family. Next to that is a dark, shipwrecked themed hallway, and it took me way too long to realize that this is the old dolphin tank. Hopefully you saw what's to come of it in the near future. For now, the placeholder for the manatees is a school of red drumfish. Duty calls in the upper deck, which brings you to the Shark Pass, where you can try to see Thelma from above. And that is also next to a third turtle habitat. Now, I'd go on, but I'm sure you're all turtled out by this point, just like they were. Now comes the exciting final stretch. The CMA is one of the few aquariums out there that encourages you to get some fresh air, and offers a beautiful view of the city and makes you wonder, what do you have to do in life to get a boat and a view like this? Anyways, the path is taking us to the rescue deck, also known as the former home to Nicholas. Since he was moved to the new dolphin complex, others had to take his spot. In 2019, Rex was stranded on St. Georgia Island. He appeared to be fine, but had some issues with his lungs. That's likely thanks to his marine sponge diet. On top of that, Rex failed his hearing test. As you saw in the first tour, CMA knows a thing or two about dolphins with hearing loss. Since he couldn't echolocate and hunt for fish on his own, that might explain why he turned to sponges to survive. Rex was originally a resident at a facility in Florida's Panhandle, until it was decided that he would make a perfect companion for Rudolph, or Rudy for short, was stranded in Sanibel, Florida also in 2019. His condition was critical, and during recovery, when it was time for him to prove why he deserves to return to the sea, his caretakers uncovered that his echolocation also did not have the range to locate food, and so the aquarium became his forever home. I said in the last video that CMA doesn't have your typical dolphin show, but still finds ways to keep their cetaceans active. Rex and Rudy's presentation taught the crowd about their bittersweet stories, facts about their species, and we all got to see firsthand how just one of their medical examinations is performed. And, well, it's not really a dolphin presentation without letting one of the world's most charismatic creatures do their thing. Maybe by now you've noticed that Rex and Rudy look a little different from Winter and her friends. The patients at the new complex are Atlantic bottlenose dolphins. Rex and Rudy are rough-toothed dolphins, categorized in the same subfamily as pilot and false killer whales. Rough-tooths are the only member of the genus Steno, which is Greek for narrow. I expected their genus to refer to their teeth. It actually refers to the dolphin's beak, which makes them very easy to tell apart from other dolphins. Their forehead slopes and lacks a crease in between their melon and that long snout. The rough-toothed dolphin may not be a household name, but in this case that doesn't mean that they're rare. They're found all over the tropical waters of the world and covers just about the same range as the bottlenose, so they're not rare in the wild. But in aquariums, that's a different story. In America, you can only find rough-tooths at one other place, the Gulf World Marine Park, where Rex was originally displayed. So this will most likely be the first and final time we see the rough-toothed dolphin on zoo tours. And that will do it for our full in-depth tours of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Of course, until their next big thing opens. This place is very different from what you might expect an aquarium to be. As I've said, the CMA is first and foremost an animal hospital that uses their rescue success stories to inspire the world. Whether you've already made a visit, or this is the closest you'll ever make a visit, I want to know what you think of this rescue facility. Now before you head out, I want to thank our channel members for making these videos possible. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, I recommend my own Zoo Crew gift shop, lined with merch that's designed for zoo enthusiasts like you and me. And if you want 10% off, simply use the promo code ZOOTOURS at the checkout. or go to the description to learn how a discounted bracelet can allow you to track these animals in the wild. And if you're still here, see if you can answer this episode's trivia question. Stay tuned, and thank you all for joining me at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium.